Hello, my name's Galena. I'm the fiancé of Joshua Lee McCollister, who was murdered on July 8th by Deunn Willis and robbed by Danielle Durand. We were so desperate to get out of Mendocino County. We were so desperate. I've been fighting to bring my father to justice as a serial killer for over a decade now. I've gone to law enforcement over 40 times. You cannot imagine what it's like to sit in a room with somebody who has no problem talking about cutting a young girl's head off. And they are lucid, they're clear, you can hear them, and yet law enforcement won't. Law enforcement will not bother to sit in a room with them and take this confession. You can't imagine what that's like. You can't imagine what it's like as a daughter to have to listen to your father talk about cutting someone's head off. I knew that I was going to be held accountable by God for the actions I had in this case. I knew that the day would come when I would inevitably die, and on the other side I would be forced to look my father's victims in the face. I knew I needed to do everything to be right with God and to be right with my father's victims. I had to fight for justice. There was no choice. There was never any choice. So I amassed a civilian posse to help me fight. It wore on them. All of them, it wore on them very heavily, the things that they had to do to bring John Trefil to justice. The instigator was a member of my posse. For years he did great work, and then he changed. You know, I've had occasional trolls say some nasty things about me online, and I'm telling you, there is nothing that any of them could have said that was anywhere near as horrible as what the instigator said to me. He blamed me for my father not being held to account. He thought it was my fault. He came to hate me very much because my father was a serial killer. Like, I don't know that he didn't think that I was really going to law enforcement, or maybe I wasn't giving them enough information, I wasn't articulate enough. I've heard every conceivable thing out of this person, why my father getting away with murder was my fault. I've been called, it started out with name calling. He started calling me really bad names because my father killed people. And after that, it got violent. He essentially was blackmailing me for years. See, I knew that the parents of the victims needed to hear about this from law enforcement, and I gave law enforcement years and years to do their job. You know, I read that my father just mumbles and, you know, he can't talk. That somebody in law enforcement said that. That's not true. And I proved that's not true. I uploaded a video of my father talking very properly about Ted Bundy. That video was only a few months before everything went viral. My father can talk. I don't know why law enforcement has ducked their duty on this, but they have. I'm not saying that about all of them. But some people really dropped the ball in my dad's case. And one of the aspects that I had to go through for this was a member of my posse blackmailing me. That I wanted to create distance between myself and this person. Not complete distance, but as much distance as possible. Because they liked calling me names. They liked scaring me. There were a couple occasions where they hurt me physically. I wanted as much distance from this person as I could get. Like, I told myself maybe someday they'll get sober and it'll be different. But I think it'd be at least 100 times in the last 5 years that this person threatened me regarding, they were going to go public regarding my father's case, only they didn't want to go to the media. They didn't want to go to law enforcement because they associated with scads of Mendocino County drug dealers. What they wanted to do was to share the information about my father being a serial killer with that community. And I was very afraid of what was going to happen if that happened. Not just because no parent of my father's victims should ever hear that my father might have murdered their daughter from a fentanyl dealer or a meth dealer. That should not have happened. But also because I was afraid what these people would do to me. See, this is a really unfortunate aspect of the true crimes community, is that there's a lot of ghouls, you know. There's a lot of people who want to get their hands on merchandise, as it were. You know, I've had things that were my father's stolen. Really, frankly, very important things. I've had them stolen by people that, like, they get off on this crap. You know, they don't care that this might be evidence that could be used in a courtroom someday to help convict him. They want something of John Trefil's, because in case he is the Zodiac killer, they know that this can be sold someday. And I was terrified for years that these crackheads in Mendocino County were going to steal my father's stuff with hopes of selling it later. And this is what Josh was afraid of too. He was living in fear of an attack, a heist happening. The entire time he was my bodyguard, he was so protective of me getting attacked like this, because he'd heard rumors that this person had gone to the, I don't want to know what else to call them, the crackhead community of Mendocino County, and that something was being planned, an attack was being planned where they were going to try and get me isolated so they could make me give up where I was keeping my father's diaries and the other evidence, the other physical evidence I had against him. And this situation got so horrible, so volatile, so frightening. You know, I just got to this point where I couldn't take this person's threats anymore. I couldn't take this person's blackmail anymore. I had no reason to believe that this wasn't all going to end with me being killed. And And I was so afraid of it. And I talked about that with my counselors at Project Sanctuary, that I thought this person was going to kill me and that they were going to kill Josh. The reason that I went forward and told the community about my father being a serial killer on the date I did is it wasn't that I was so afraid of being murdered, it was that I could not handle the concept that if I was murdered, the information about my father and his victims was going to die with me. Nobody had all the information like I did. And so Josh and I decided we have to go public with this story now, just in case these people wind up killing us. And that's why, anybody that follows my page, they'll see some days I was posting a lot. I was posting like 4 or 5 times a day information about my dad, and that's why, because I wanted the victims to be found. I wanted their families to be able to find them. And that could only happen if I made sure this information was out there. And, I remember the last time I saw Josh, he said to me, "We're not out of the woods yet. They can still kill us. They can still kill me. They can still kill you." And that's why I'm still so in shock that it was somebody else that killed Josh, because we were braced for it, man. I mean, I wrote to this person, the instigator, I wrote to them over and over again on Facebook, "Please don't kill me. Please don't kill Josh." And I think it says everything you need to know about this situation, that this person actually printed out 3 months of correspondence with me and gave it to 2 other people that I know of, 2 other people that they've admitted to, that they've named on camera. And this situation was just so far gone that these people could see a woman begging for her life, and because my father was a serial killer, they were able to treat me like this, and nobody did anything to stop him. That this person, the enabler, who's so respected in Mendocino County, the enabler knew about this whole situation regarding my father being a serial killer for like 5 months before it went viral. There was a situation where the instigator spat at me twice, screamed "F you" at me, and told me that he was going to go tell this person. And he did. This respected member of the community in Fort Bragg, she kept it to herself that my father was a serial killer. She didn't go to law enforcement. She didn't do anything. She just held it to herself. And Josh's belief was that she was hoping that at the end of this, if my father really is the Zodiac killer, that there was going to be some massive payout. And that's why I was being held in place, forced to go along with all this, because these freaking ghouls wanted money. And they knew that if they just kept me backed into a corner, kept me subdued, terrorized me, basically, that in the end they were going to get money out of all this. And that's why I knew he was in so much danger, because, see, if they wanted that end result, if they wanted that money, they wanted to sell my father's stuff to some creepy, serial killer memorabilia, underground crap. I mean, they needed to get Josh out of the way, because he wasn't going to let that happen to me. He wasn't going to let them hurt me anymore. He wasn't going to let them put hands on me anymore. It wasn't going to happen. He was going to protect me. One of the things I keep saying since he died is I'd set this, like if there was a payout, I'd set it all on fire before them getting one freaking dollar, because what they put me through, what they put Josh through, it was psychopathic. It really was. It was so incredibly vile. But the stalking situation, it was because they just wanted a payday. That's all it was. And I said to him, you're expendable. We both know this, but they'll keep me alive long enough that they'll get the money, and then I won't be safe anymore. So whenever people talk about money, me getting money out of my dad's story, that's the perspective that it's always in for me. If I were to get money, I don't think I'd be safe anymore. It's just the fact that I haven't gotten anything. Josh did everything to protect me. He did everything to protect me, to get me away from these people.